Hey, everybody, welcome back to our latest episode of our Velocity Sellers Podcast. I am your host, Velocity Pete. Today, I am joined by Seth Hurd, the founder and CEO of BrandExpand. We're going to be talking about expanding your brand to a variety of different marketplaces. Seth's going to give us the rundown on a variety of different topics surrounding that, like what marketplaces should you maybe expand to, what ones are doing good, which ones are people moving away from, and a lot more on that. So, Seth, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about expanding your brand.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Pete. Excited to get started, dive into some expansion topics, and try to provide value to all your listeners.
Thank you. I think you will. I'm excited to talk to you today about this. But first things first, I do want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the viewers and kind of give your background and your experience in the e-com business and kind of where the idea of BrandExpand came from. So.
For sure, yeah. So my experience goes back to 2015. I started a private label brand back in 2015. I remember when I started, I was thinking, I must be late to the game. People, got in 2010, 2012. They were really crushing it by 50. But in hindsight, it was a great time to enter, bootstrap the brand from $1,000 to a 7-figure exit in 2021. And while I was growing it, had a lot of sellers, a lot of MDS in the $1 Million Seller Network that I collaborated with, and they were asking questions. So eventually I decided I should probably start billing them for the questions they were asking. And so that became e-com consulting. And the question that I heard over and over was, how do we drive external traffic to our product listings in an effective way that's not too expensive, that's compliant, all of these things. And just having my own business, I knew that was a huge gap that somebody needed to fill. And from that, BrandExpand was born. So we started off as an agency working with anywhere from 30 to 50 sellers, continued to cap out the bandwidth in terms of the product launches we were doing and what we could work with. So naturally, the next step was to create a software. I figured, how hard can it be if I built this brand? It's very challenging to build a software, especially if you're not a tech founder. I went to school for accounting and finance. So I had no idea what Python code even meant. So, but figured it out along the way. And after 2 years of building the technology, we launched in December 21, really January 22. And since then have been kind of molding it ever since with feedback from our users. We went full omni-channel from the very beginning. So we do service primarily Amazon sellers, but also Target, Walmart, Etsy, TikTok Shop is becoming bigger. We'll probably talk about that in a little bit. That's where we are today. So
awesome. Well, I'm excited to go into pretty much every different aspect. One of the things I say a lot on the different episodes is that I want to be the Joe Rogan of the Amazon world, and I want to just have these super smart people that are smarter than me on. Not that Joe isn't smart, but people that know a lot more about different topics than I do, and I want to learn from them. So I'm excited to kind of, again, pick your brain about definitely the omni-channel stuff. I know that's super duper important, these days. And if you're just on Amazon, it's fine. That's the biggest one. It's the best one to just be only on, I guess, be exclusive with. But it's really becoming more of a, I want to say, maybe you disagree with me, maybe you agree, but I want to say it's almost becoming a requirement to be on more than just Amazon these days. And I don't know, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's necessary for brands that want to take it to the next level to be on these other platforms?
Yeah, exactly. It is a requirement, and it's becoming more so every single day. It's becoming more of a requirement. And even back, when Walmart started to kind of enter the scene in 2018, 2019, everybody, get pushed back, and they still do about getting on Walmart, which is understandable. They're still very much lagging. But profit margins are continuing to dwindle for third-party sellers on Amazon, and that's not going to go away, right? If you read any of Bezos's books, you know that really to get the lowest possible price for consumers, you kind of have to cut out the middleman, and that's not to scare any sellers by any means, but it will continue to be very much larger sellers, 7, 8, 9-figure D2C type brands that are going to dominate Amazon in the coming years. So it's important to diversify, just like you would an investment portfolio, diversify across multiple marketplaces just to mitigate that risk. And another piece for Walmart is, the amount of reviews for products is, generally less than 10% of what you'd see on Amazon. So our software actually facilitates the review request process for channels outside Amazon. We don't do it for Amazon for a variety of reasons we won't get into, but for marketplaces, Walmart, Target, Etsy, TikTok, we do review requests, and just getting those initial reviews will set you up for success so that Walmart, which has the same revenue as Amazon, it's just 90% brick and mortar. If they inevitably do start taking out more e-commerce market share, which, they would have to, otherwise they'll become obsolete by 2040, right? Then you'll be positioned to capitalize on that, much like, sellers in 2010, 2015 on Amazon were able to capitalize. So that's what I would say. And there's a lot of trending towards using TikTok Shop. We'll get into that a little bit later, but TikTok Shop is becoming a great way to launch products at a lower cost, get virality. But yeah.
No, I'm excited to go, and definitely TikTok. I will save that for the middle and like sort of the meat and potatoes of the episode, because I know that's a big topic. I want to get sort of to these, maybe some of these, I don't want to call them smaller guys, because Walmart, like you said, is the same revenue as Amazon. It's just brick and mortar. And Target, I'm sure, is up there, is probably one of the bigger companies in the world. But I do want to ask a little bit more about BrandExpand as well, and kind of just what really makes you guys different than other people. Like, what is something that, not that I've even heard of another competitor like yours, maybe, but what are your processes, and what sets you guys apart from these other softwares that are out there?
Yeah. So our technology started, in 2019. During the 2021 timeframe, there was a lot of scrutiny around rebates and giveaways, right? Everybody knows that. Most, if not the majority of our competitors, shied away, went different directions, went into different niches, whatever. The question we asked is, there's always going to be a need to drive external traffic to marketplaces, and not just Amazon, right? There's a bunch of other marketplaces that will continue to take out market share. So what can we do to creatively position ourselves, advantageously across these different marketplaces, still drive traffic in a very compliant way, in a creative way? And so we built the software to do just that. What makes us unique is, we don't have rebates, we don't have giveaways, we don't do any of that. We have a point-based system. We have a buyer network. So we have the vertical integration where we have the B2C component with the deal network. We have the BrandExpand component, which is B2B sales acceleration SaaS. And because of that vertical integration, we're able to drive traffic at a lower cost. And there's no emphasis on buying the product. The emphasis is on the listing feedback, the post-purchase feedback, and really providing value from the buyer to the seller so that they can improve their own conversion rates, get in front of any type of issues they might have with their product, while also getting the sales and the more indexing that they would get with a traditional product launch. So we've taken a very creative approach to stay fully compliant. We've done over 7,000 launches. We've never had any issues. And I don't think there's really any other competitors that do what we do in the space and have done it as successfully as we have over the years.
I definitely don't think there's anybody that can make the claim of, or that can testify and say that they have 7,000 launches with no issues. So that's a big accomplishment. But yeah, that's awesome. That sounds exactly kind of someone I want to have on the episode or on the podcast as a guest, is someone I want to talk to. So no, I'm really excited to kind of dive more into the different marketplaces, and I'm curious to learn more about them, especially the ones that obviously I'm familiar with. Amazon, it's the bread and butter of our company. But I'm really curious to dive more into places like Target and Etsy, especially because I'm not super familiar with them. And then also, of course, the big one, TikTok Shop, and maybe a little bit of Walmart as well. We've had some Walmart discussions, and I always see their earnings reports, or they're creeping up on Amazon for the number 2 spot in the e-commerce world. And they've already obviously built themselves as someone that is a reliable shopping network of goods and services, that kind of thing. So I can see why they're, again, catching up a little bit to Amazon. So it's interesting that.
Yeah, I mean, the compound annual growth rate of Walmart's e-commerce will obviously exceed Amazon's, because Amazon's fully e-commerce, whereas Walmart's 90% brick and mortar. So it's going to continue to be 2 to 3 to 4x higher compound growth than Amazon's e-commerce over the next couple of years. And got to keep in mind, Walmart's been around for a very long time. If you've ever read Sam Walton's book, like they're not going anywhere. So it's just a good play. Even if, maybe there's a 10% chance that they, go bankrupt and become obsolete, which I don't think will happen. It's still, there's, 90% chance that they're going to be successful. Why would you not position yourself to capitalize on that success? So, and that's what we positioned BrandExpand from the very beginning, because I saw this happening slowly, where Amazon would increase fees and here and there. And I won't get too much into the reasons why I believe they're doing this, but there's definitely something to say about, very tactfully edging out your competition in a way that doesn't seem like a non-competitive type of way. You know what I mean? But you
Right.
see this happen. We did a number of surveys to just see what the profit margins were for sellers over the years. When I joined, having 30% profit margins wasn't uncommon back in 2015, 16, 17. Now, I mean, you're lucky to have 10%, right? You kind of have to be in that 7-figure plus range to have meaningful margins. And that's just going to continue as these larger companies continue to consolidate. You have the aggregators, the D2C, factories just shipping direct even to
Right. The
consumer, like
Chinese
TikTok
or
shop.
the
Yeah. So
what's it called? Amazon Temu or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And they're making a move with the assumption that Temu and others will be really heavily taxed, once a different administration takes office. So
Yeah.
all that's going to start, playing in and continuing to chip away at profit margins. Unfortunately, that's just what we've seen. And so again, marketplaces like Walmart would be the first one that I would recommend getting on. Target's a good one too, but there are a lot of different nuances. You really have to be a pretty large seller for that to make sense, because there's like co-assignment rules. And if you can get in there, last time I checked, there was like 10 or 15,000 third-party sellers on Target. You know what I mean? So it's very small compared to other marketplaces, especially Amazon.
Yeah.
And then TikTok Shop.
Yeah. And is Target an invite only? Like you have to, can anyone just apply to sell on Target?
I think you can apply. It used to be invite only, but I believe you can apply now. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
But they're very specific. I think just really quick, one individual I was talking to the other day said that you had to have like the formation documents, like the physical document, actually, scanned and present to like give to them. So they're very particular, and same with Walmart, very, very particular about the documents needed to get signed up. So just be really careful about that.
I've heard that. I've heard Walmart is a little bit easier than some of the other ones. And I know
Yeah.
it's like you said, margin wise is one of the most important things that we can talk about today. And I'd love to go into the different margins of each of these marketplaces and kind of where you're seeing the most success margin wise. But I know Walmart is like you said, there are, I'm sure, plenty of legitimate reasons why Amazon likes to raise these prices on us, or raise the FBA fees or X, Y, and Z, whatever, add these new fees. Sometimes I say that Jeff needs a new yacht, and that's my excuse on why they're doing that. But in any case, like you said, that you're lucky if you get 10%. And so if you're like a mom and pop shop, or if you're a small business on Amazon, we partner with a lot of small businesses. We get a lot of people that aren't doing that aren't there yet, that aren't making 7 figures in profit or doing 8 figures in sales. So if you're this mom and pop shop, you have to eat a lot of these costs, and it's a lot less than what it would have been even like 5 years ago. I feel like these costs and these different fees that Amazon puts on us are a little bit, are just a whole lot different. So it's very interesting to see people, and we talked at the beginning about almost being required to be on different marketplaces and almost requiring to be on these different sites. It's very interesting to see people stay loyal to just Amazon when, like you said, there's a 90% chance that Walmart becomes this giant e-commerce king, more than they already kind of have been. So why wouldn't you want to hop on that wave when it's easy to and you still can? So it's a very interesting situation.
Yeah, it's like in that it's like a requirement, but not urgent. quadrant of the decision making. You know what I mean? Like everybody, I think most sellers know that they need to diversify. Like nobody would invest in just Apple, right? You need to diversify to different channels, especially if you're a larger, if you're below 7 figures and you're doing good on Amazon, I wouldn't recommend diversifying because it does require effort to transition. And you can only spread your resources so thin. But if you're 7, 8, 9 figure, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be on multiple marketplaces by now.
Yeah.
Just really quick to comment on the PPC costs in particular that have just skyrocketed, during the pandemic and post pandemic. That's one of the reasons why we created BrandExpand, because we can specify an A cost when you create the product campaigns, so that you know what you're spending going into it versus a lot of competitive keywords. You're going to have 100, 200, 300% A costs for these more competitive products, and it's not sustainable. You know what I mean? And the cost for PPC has just gone through the roof across every different category, especially the more competitive ones.
Yeah, especially like those highly saturated like supplements or beauty products, something like that. Yeah, we see it
Yeah.
too. It's a
Yep.
shame. It's like I kind of equated it to if you've heard of the French fry effect, from as a fellow former business student. It's like when the price of potatoes goes up, the price of French fries goes up, right? But when the price of potatoes comes back down, things ebb and flow. The
Exactly.
price of French fries will never go back down because those companies, like the fast food places, know that you'll still pay that price for those French fries. They see it, when you bought them, when they raised it the first time, so they're not going to lower it back down. And so, I hope
Yeah.
these PPC costs become a little bit more accessible for new people, and that the gates to these, I feel like these uh, changes and these different fees and these different adjustments, and obviously we were in a little bit of a mini recession. We had a lot of inflation in the past couple of years, couple of months. But I hope that these barriers to entry come a little bit back down, so we can get some more competitors, we can get some more business going on in here. But I'm kind of going a little bit, weave it a little bit different off the path here. The other thing I wanted to say was, you definitely, on the topic of spreading your resources too thin, we definitely don't want, and I'm sure you agree with this. I don't know if you have any examples of this, of brands that you've worked with, but I would never, if I was an Amazon seller and I wanted to expand to Walmart, I would never want that expansion to significantly hurt my Amazon business, because
Yeah.
as much as I like Walmart, as much as I want to, get a lot of our partners integrated onto Walmart, I would never choose Walmart over Amazon, at least right now, because there's just so much more potential, so much more profit to be made on Amazon. So do
Right.
you have any stories, or do you have any takes on, you should want to expand, but not at the cost of, your cash cows?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it really depends on the product that you're selling. There's certain products on Walmart that I've heard do better. Historically, for example, food and beverage and grocery products have done well on Walmart. Of course, with Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods, that's shifting a little bit.
Right.
Um, there's sellers that sell, sports and outdoors does well on Walmart. So I think it really depends on the category. Um, like supplements, for example, I don't think would do well in Walmart, not as well as these other categories. So it really
Right.
depends on what your cash flow situation is. You have to think about the third party logistics. Like obviously have to use a different fulfillment center for Walmart, right? So that plays into it. That requires a whole different calculation on inventory turnover, lead times, and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of factors that play into it. But I agree, you really don't, unless it's a product that makes sense and you're positioned to be able to migrate in maybe with less resources, than otherwise, stay on there. And again, I usually say, you want to be at 7 figures at least before considering that, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and Walmart is another point I wanted to make, is Walmart is very funny, because
Yeah.
for Fall Prime Day and for the Prime Day in July, when Amazon announced the dates, Walmart announced their own version of it the week before. And I thought that was hilarious, because one, it's like people are going to get shopped out. They're going to not want to shop anymore if they use Walmart. I'm sure that definitely hurt Amazon sales during both of these holidays. And even I think even, and correct me if I'm wrong, even Target did something
Yeah.
this fall, around this Fall Prime Day, like the Target Ring days or something like that. like right before Amazon's Prime Day. That is hilarious to me. That is very capitalism type of humor,
Yeah.
funny to me.
We actually
So
joke about that internally because
yeah,
we have a corresponding deal marketplace that we leverage, and we're like, we should just create ads that say, every day is a buying holiday, because you're starting to see all of these marketplaces roll out these holidays where it's becoming kind of ridiculous. It's like every month there's
right.
some sort of like shopping holiday, and everybody knows that brands just inflate their price and then take a 50% discount,
Yeah,
right? So it's not really, you're not really saving anything,
no,
generally speaking. So
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of silly how they do it, but it's most definitely, Walmart's definitely becoming a thorn, I think, in Amazon's side, and doing things to carve back some market share.
I as much as I love Amazon and I respect their, their business, it's what keeps us in business. It is very funny to watch Walmart again be that, like you said, be that thorn in their side. So very interesting from them, and I'm excited to see kind of how they do in 2025. Like I said, I had a couple podcasts at the beginning of this year that I was talking about Walmart, and I was talking with the guests, and we were just saying like, oh, like Walmart's, a cute second option. Like it's not really going to be a real viable source of income, but it's fun to maybe be on Walmart, and everyone, maybe you buy online and pick up in store, which is I feel like a lot of their e-commerce sales. I don't know if they equate them to that, but I know a lot of the stuff and before I get on to the other Walmart point, it's interesting to see just how far they've come in 2024, and I'm curious to see how far they'll go in 2025 and then some.
It's
But
funny, like I read back in 2005 2010 timeframe, Walmart was very much like an old man's like club, and everybody was like, no way e-commerce is going to blow up, blah blah blah. And so for that reason, they were very late to the game, right? And now it's like, okay, I think they acquired jet.com back like what 6-7 years ago now. So it's kind of a lesson, what happens if you let your ego get in the way and you don't actually think about what the future is going to look like, right? So taking that lesson and learning from that, it's like, do you really truly believe that Walmart's going to be obsolete in 2040? Because they said that, I've read somewhere 90 to 95% of orders will be done online by 2040. Do you think that Amazon or Walmart's not going to be a player in the e-commerce game? If you truly don't think so, then yeah, don't waste your time. But I would say that the likelihood of them sticking around is much more likely than them not being here. So,
yeah, I
yeah,
fully am on that side now as well. And a lot of what I see I don't see anything about in the Walmart stores, at least. I don't see anything about like, oh, order this online or like check out our website. Maybe like a little bit, but I feel like a lot of their material is, they don't, this is a secondary option for them. This is
yeah,
not, like you said, it's 90, maybe, or it's maybe like 2%, maybe 3% of their business. And so they're not gonna, it's the same thing where you don't want your Walmart sales to distract from your Amazon sales. They don't want their, as much as they want maybe the e-commerce sales and the e-commerce generation of, market share and taking stuff away from Amazon, they would never sacrifice their in-store sales. They would never like one example I heard was they were going to turn a lot of their Walmart stores into just giant big warehouses for their e-com space, maybe in like 30 years. But right now, their bread and butter is retail. So why would they get rid of that? They already have warehouses. They already have the space to hold all these products for e-commerce for their website. So why would you get rid of their bread and butter, their 98% of their business, to focus on that 2%?
yeah,
So
yeah. It's interesting to think about more. I did a pretty lengthy podcast with, you probably know Norm Farrar, lunch with Norm, about the omni channel and what we're seeing kind of emerge. But yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there's like 62,000 Walmart supercenters around the U.S. And
right,
so, yeah, of course they're not going to shift to e-commerce overnight, and they're definitely not going to cannibalize their brick and mortar operations. But you're starting to see those supercenters slowly turn into fulfillment centers. Like I think all the front offices, they used to have like, getting haircuts, or you could get,
hmm
nails
I
done
got
or
my
whatever.
glasses from Walmart. These are
Yeah.
from Walmart. These glasses from the
Yeah.
Walmart Vision Center. I'm proud to
There
say
you
that
go.
because they're the cheapest and they work. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I do the one at Target. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
same
but
thing.
those are, as they start to look at opportunity costs, those are going to shift slowly to me, more fulfillment in rooms that they can stock products. And that actually brings me to another point, which is if you're going to sell in Walmart or even Target, the end goal should really be to get into the stores, because the way that their ranking algorithm works is they actually prioritize products in stores over e-commerce, no matter how well you're doing. If it's a great product online, if it's not stocked at the Walmart, 2 miles down the road, it's not going to rank above those locally stocked products. And the reason is because they can obviously expedite those faster, right? If they're stocked there. So really, the end goal should be, okay, I want to get into Walmart supercenters, and that should really drive your decision whether to transition over there or not. And same goes for Target as well. That's if I was going to consider that, that's what I would be asking.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from sellers that I talk to, and a lot of our partners too. Is yeah, we want to be on Target.com, but we more importantly want to be in the store because, like I just said, it's versus in terms of dollars, Walmart makes, and just obviously this is a very exaggerated or less, I
Yeah.
guess, unexaggerated figure. Like if Walmart made $100 one day, $97 is coming from the in-store products, in-store shopping, and only $3 is coming from the online stores. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of that 97? So it
Exactly.
definitely is the play to get into the store, and that's actually a great kind of segue into a little bit almost sort of back into our topics. I want to talk to you about like you mentioned, just omni-channel expansion, and really using this and leveraging this to get into these different retail stores. Maybe not just Walmart and Target, but other stores, like if you're a sporting goods store getting into Dick's, if you're office products getting into Staples, all that kind of good stuff, and how you can really branch out and really leverage a lot of this to expand. So, what are we? I mean, as a very vague question, what are we seeing? What have you seen in 2024 in terms of omni-channel expansion that has kind of made you a little bit more optimistic for brands to be easier, or optimistic for brands to have a better time getting into these different marketplaces and expanding their business?
Yeah. So what I'll say is it's been very interesting. We've done over 7,000 launches. We do what's called a comprehensive case study, where we take thousands of launches and we just kind of segment the data and look at the different trends. And it's very interesting. One of the trends we've seen is just the number of non-Amazon product launches that we've done over the years. It started at about 95%, 5%, this is back in 21, 22. We had 5% of generally, like predominantly Walmart and Target. Now it's about 60-40, 60% Amazon, 40% Walmart, Target primarily, but also Sam's Club. We have IRB launches that we've done. We have different, what's the other one? Etsy and TikTok. We're
Right.
driving a lot of customers into a TikTok buyer segment because we're seeing that emerge. And so Chewy.com is what I'm trying to think. So there's a lot of other marketplaces that sellers are going on. And I would recommend finding one that specializes in your niche. Like if you're selling pet products, try to get on Chewy. If you're selling supplements, try to get in GNC or iHerb.com or something else, right? If you're selling furniture, home goods, maybe try to get into Wayfair, right? Find a marketplace that really specializes in whatever you're selling. And that way, yes, you're going to have less traffic. It's not going to be as successful as Amazon, but because it's pretty niche and it does have the products that you're selling, that will offset the lack of volume to some degree. You know what I mean? But what I will say is, across all of our campaigns and what we've seen is the slow trend to other marketplaces. Like that is one thing that we are seeing for sure.
And we're talking about the giants, we're talking about Walmart and Amazon, but just like you said, I mean, these niche ones and getting on Chewy, getting on Dick's,
Yeah.
getting on Staples, getting on these, and those are still big companies, but
Right.
um, people are going there looking for your products. We're on Amazon. I open Amazon just for fun sometimes. I know that's maybe nerdy, maybe embarrassing to admit, but I like to just say, like, what's trending right now? Like
Yeah.
what's moving right now on Amazon? Like, oh, that's interesting. Like some of that stuff is, I wouldn't expect that, but there it is.
For
But
sure.
these niche sites, these smaller guys, these smaller players, I think are definitely crucial. And I think that's what we talked about in the beginning. It's it's not necessarily required, but why wouldn't you, as a brand, not even just as like a tool to sell products, why wouldn't you as a brand want to be associated with the niche or the industry that you're trying to operate in? Why wouldn't you, as a dog toy manufacturer or a dog toy brand, want to be on Chewy, where all of these dog and pet people are looking every day? You're
Yeah.
right. It's not as big as Amazon. There's not, I think what's the number, like 230 million Prime subscriber or Prime owners in the country, but it's still such an important niche to be a part of, or an important segment that you want to get into. Why wouldn't you be where all of the people and your exact demographic of shopper is looking every day? So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like to compare it, everybody knows what happened to the old oil companies, our forefathers that started businesses, in the 1900s. Like, you saw them get broken up. And so e-commerce is gonna be very similar. There's not gonna be one company that's gonna dominate the majority of the market share. Certainly Amazon is going to dominate for a very long time, but that's not like the market share is going to grow and they're going to become, more monopolistic. It's just not how we're set up. We're set up to diversify, and that's good. That's good for the consumer to not have one marketplace that's dominant, right? So you're just going to naturally see that. And what I see happening over the years is all of these different marketplaces are really going to be more niche. So, like, for example, I don't buy gifts on Amazon. I don't know if you ever look for like Valentine's Day gift or gift for mother or something. Like, the products are just atrocious that show up towards the top. And it's like, I would never get this mug for my mom, like I would go on Etsy to find a gift. You find more, custom made gifts, more craft items. And you see Etsy really taking that direction where it has to be like custom made by the artisan. And that's smart because they're carving out that niche, right? And my wife sells on Etsy. We've used our software for Etsy launches. It's very effective. And so, again, as we evolve through the years, you're going to see that more and more where different marketplaces are, carving out their own separate niche, where Amazon and Walmart are really the lowest price, which is going to be the biggest demand, right? Is having the lowest price products. They're going to be competing for that specific niche for the dominant, but all these other marketplaces like Target has a very loyal following. I think the repeat shopper rate on Target is like 92% or something ridiculous. And so they have a very loyal following of a very specific, type of maybe like home body type demographic, similar to Wayfair, where there's like, I want more high quality products that are more like homey. I don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you do, yeah.
yeah, so that's something to consider. I see that continuing to happen where, these other marketplaces, they might not gain market share necessarily, but they're going to gain market share in their own specific niche. That's really going to be their primary focus versus trying to go after every single category. If that makes sense.
Right. It does.
Yeah.
No, and we keep saying that it's necessary, like it's urgent for you to get on these other channels, but I think you would agree too. And like we talked about this already a little bit, like some products don't work on all these channels.
Right.
And so it's important to kind of discern which ones are best for you and which ones I wouldn't, if I'm just think for lack of a better item, if I'm a stapler, I'm not going to want to list on Dick's. No one's going to Dick's to buy a stapler.
Right. The example I always use is because we were in health and wellness, my brand, we tried to launch on eBay. It didn't work well at all. And you think about it, eBay is a giant like garage sale, right? So you're not going to go buy, some supplement at a garage sale, that's been opened or whatever. So
yeah.
So you want to be careful, want to be mindful of, yeah, exactly. Like do the research and make sure, okay, this category in some cases might even do better than on Amazon in certain categories, right? Or at least in terms of if you combine the profit margins with the potential demand, you might actually do better. Like, for example, I don't know if this is fact, but just an example, custom made candles might do better on Etsy, not in terms of volume, but Etsy has 30 to 50% profit margins. And so even if you do 20% of the volume, you're still going to make it up for profit. So all of these things kind of play into it, but I agree 100%. Just do the research, make sure that the marketplace makes sense. And
And
yeah,
I do want to get into a little bit quickly about profit margin and kind of what are we seeing, because obviously we talked about Amazon and Jeff needing his third or fourth super yacht, so they're
he
kind
wants to
of
fund
crunching
Blue
down a little
Origin.
bit. Yeah, they're crunching down a little bit on us sellers, but what are the profit? And Walmart's not bad. Walmart's not bad at all. I know it's definitely a little bit better than Amazon. No offense to Amazon.
Yeah.
What are profit margins like? And you just told me Etsy, but what are profits margins like on TikTok and on Target and these other like maybe like Chewy or any of these niche marketplaces? What are they like compared to Walmart and Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, Walmart's similar to Amazon. I think it's a little bit more favorable, but it depends on the product. So the dimensions of the packaging, the size of the product, all of those things come into, the fulfillment cost is really what differentiates in terms of PPC advertising. I think it's pretty similar. Walmart is less competitive, but the margins can be similar, but I would say generally speaking, better on Walmart than Amazon. As far as Target, I can't say for sure. I would assume they're better on Target, but I don't know that for sure. And then TikTok, it depends how you're fulfilling the products, right? If you're shipping them from your house, you're going to have a lot of margin there. But generally speaking, similar to Etsy, TikTok's just going to have much higher profit margins because you don't have all of the fees that are just cutting into it like you would have on Amazon. It's really the cost of goods sold. Maybe you have some advertising expense in there. Maybe you're giving some commission to, somebody who's promoting it, an influencer,
Influencer or something, yeah.
right? But you can still, I would say, get a good 30% profit margin. Um, and then in the scheme of things, right, you launch on TikTok, you get virality, you do it right, you kind of create the snowball effect. And then what you see is a lot of sellers have been saying, if you do it effectively, you start getting that social proof, you get reviews. And again, that kind of snowballs, you get micro influencers, and then you go after larger and larger influencers as you get more social proof. All of that virality kind of cascades over to Amazon and other marketplaces. And so even if your margins aren't great on TikTok, it's an excellent way to do a really creative, inexpensive product launch. And there's a lot of different tactics that I won't necessarily get into. There's other podcasts out there on how to do this really effectively. I just did one, I think 2 weeks ago, that was really, really interesting. But TikTok's definitely where if I was a big seller, I'd be focusing a lot of my attention on TikTok, especially as it relates to product launches.
Yeah, and I want to get right into that. So while we're on it, let's talk TikTok. I want to hear about this product. You specifically mentioned now twice, I think, product launches on TikTok. Are you guys seeing a lot more success in terms of however you measure success? Are you seeing a lot more of that compared to on Amazon launching a new product?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There's a lot of different tactics you can use on TikTok Shop, but generally what we see is, sellers will have a video floating around that's an ad that shows a person, for example, this is one of the tactics. It shows somebody typing in keywords for a specific product, and so they don't have a call to action. It's just showing them how to find it on Amazon and buy it. And, of course, that will organically create indexing and ranking for your most, dominant, primary keywords. So that's one of the creative tactics you can use to boost up your relevant keywords. But the thing is, when you do a product launch on Amazon, it's going to be very costly. We talked about all the other fees that are carved into that. Then you do a product launch, and so it's really, you might get a positive ROAS, return on ad spend, when doing a product launch, driving external traffic, but it's going to be costly, and you have to do high volumes. Whereas on TikTok, you can start and get creative and start doing lower volumes, give influencers products for free, and you can do this right, through TikTok's platform. Or FastMoss is the name of the software that you can use. It's like the Helium 10 for TikTok Shop. And just, research different influencers that specialize in different products, have them share the product. You can use platforms like ours to get review requests, get social proof on those TikTok products. And again, as you get more social proof, you get more virality, and then larger influencers will catch on and be willing to share your product. And then what happens is, and there's many case studies that will show this, they'll show, sales going up, and there's products that absolutely just blow up on TikTok, like insane numbers, selling like 2, 3, 5,000 a day. It's, I think one of the ones I looked at was like a teeth whitening solution or something. There's like a notebook that blew up. I think it's like Shadow Workbook or something. That's a good example floating around. But what you see is, you'll see the spike on TikTok Shop. And then what happens is those buyers, especially if it's a repeat purchase, which is why consumable products are really good on TikTok Shop for launches, you see it cascade. And then there's actually a launch and the BSR improvement on Amazon, because shoppers aren't going to go repeat purchase from TikTok Shop. They're going to go to Amazon, right? So
Right.
it's super interesting. Definitely for consumables. Very creative ways to do launches that permeates across marketplaces and creates this kind of, I guess, virality across omni-channel. That's unique to TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. I know influencer content is huge. And obviously any kind of UGC or any kind of just like, hey, I'm a regular, in quotes, regular person that use this product. Here's what I think about it. It is invaluable to anyone on any marketplace. Especially I think on Amazon. I see a lot of those videos on Amazon, and I see them doing pretty well. For our own partners too that have them, like their products do a significant. They see a significant increase when they add those videos and when they put them on their listings. So I just spoke with Daniil from Incense not too long ago, and his company specializes in specifically just connecting you with specific influencers that are in your niche and all this kind of stuff. And he's doing pretty good because this is such an important piece of the puzzle, especially for TikTok. So I'd love to hear more about the process for getting a product launch on there, kind of what you guys do, and kind of what pieces, again, for lack of a better term, what pieces of the puzzle you guys fill in for the brand, and really, what you can help them with in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, UGC is huge. China was doing this a lot, these type of UGC and video type shopping for a very long time. And so when TikTok Shop came to the US and just blew up, it wasn't really surprising for them because it had been a common trend for a while. It's huge. I know Incense, like you said, Join Brands is another one. There's a couple companies that do it pretty well that, join brands with influencers. Definitely something that the brand should start doing. What we do on BrandExpand is we'll facilitate the traffic from our network, a very large network of shoppers, to products on, for example, TikTok, Walmart, Target, Etsy, Amazon. And again, for marketplaces outside Amazon, we'll actually do review requests. So we'll ask for a fully a compliant, honest review that doesn't have any incentive attached to it with the buyers that purchase through our network. And you'll generally see 20 to 50% review rate on that. And that social proof obviously helps increase conversion rates. And having at least, I would say, 5 reviews on TikTok Shop is kind of a prerequisite to reaching out to influencers, because if they don't have any social proof, they're not really interested in working with it. So it's really used our platform. We've seen sellers use it to get that initial volume, get those initial sales on TikTok Shop, get those reviews. And that kind of, I guess, is the catalyst to working with influencers and then really creating a viral launch.
Yeah, no, and I see it. I see the potential in there. Again, I'm at the point, it's like a cycle for me where I see a new marketplace and I say, that's not going to compete with Amazon.
Yeah.
That's not going to be anything, worthwhile. I thought TikTok was going to get banned a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And maybe with an administration change, they might follow through with that maybe. And that would be a problem. And then they'll have someone maybe like Amazon buy them out and kind of, that would be a crazy deal. I have no doubt, but
or
in any case, I'm at the point
51% ownership. I think there's something like that. Like it has to be predominantly owned by a US based company, but I agree. I don't think it's going anywhere just because of how huge it's become. Like
that's what I mean.
The very least that, they're going to give into whatever or work, with the administration, whatever it is to figure out a deal. But I was the same way, even 3-4 months ago, we were very reluctant to change our platform because, yeah,
Yep.
obviously you have to be very mindful of not going after shiny objects. And that was kind of the case. Like, well, let's just wait to see how it plays out. And relatively recently, I would say 2-3 months ago, was when we were like, okay, we're going to bring TikTok in as one of our top 5 marketplaces for BrandExpand. We have 5 marketplaces that we really focus on. We
Mhm.
import products, automated import products. We do keyword tracking,
Right.
automated launch approval process where you can launch a product, gets approved immediately, and goes live on our deal site. And those marketplaces were Amazon, Walmart, Target, Etsy, eBay. We're replacing eBay with TikTok Shop because that's really taking the place of eBay. eBay's
Yeah.
kind of a afterthought, I think, for everybody, unless you're looking for like
Something
collectors
super
baseball cards or
specific.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My dad and I were big on eBay back in the day. Of just saying like just browsing and seeing like, oh, like what do we got here? Um,
what's interesting
but
is
I'm
I
at
was
the
I was in the UK. This was like 6-7 years ago, so it's obviously changed. But I was asking an Uber driver. I was like, "You guys use Amazon a lot?" And he was like, "No, this is outside of Manchester, so it's a big city." He was like, "No, actually, eBay is really the more dominant marketplace here." I was shocked. This was again like
wow.
2016, 2017, so it was very much the dominant marketplace in the UK back then. But that's obviously changed, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were more like 20% to Amazon's 80% market share. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just in the UK. That's a funny question. I was just there for the Phillies and Mets game this past June. Beautiful country, beautiful country. They got a lot figured out over there, and I'm a big fan. If you haven't tried it, I'm a big fan of the Scotch egg.
Oh yeah.
Really interesting food item, I'll call it. They take an egg, they wrap it in sausage, and then they deep fry the whole thing. And it's got a nice crispy layer on the outside. The sausage is cooked perfectly. The egg is not runny. It's like a hard boiled egg, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I've been chasing. I've had them here in the U.S. Before I went to the U.K. But then I went over to the U.K. and I remember that it's like a UK. It's an English creation. And there was a vendor on the street selling them. And my friends were like, I went with 3 buddies, and they said, please don't buy that. Like, there's no way that's going to be good. And it was phenomenal. It was
That's
phenomenal.
funny.
So
I hear some people say that about the what is it, Blutwurst, the blood sausage. I
yes,
have yet to try
also
it. I
very
might.
good.
Yeah.
Also
Okay.
very good.
I might have to
And I'm
try it, but
sorry, viewers, I'm going to
yeah,
gross you out a little bit.
yeah.
We went to a nice restaurant. We said we have to go out to a nice. We're there for 5 days. One of our dinners has to be a little bit nicer, a little bit more classy. And we went to this place called, I think, St. John's Kitchen. We were in like the heart of London. And I ordered the lamb kidneys, uh, and they were phenomenal. I was looking at this like when they brought it out, and I said, this cannot be good. I have made a mistake. It was really good. They have a lot of, and they get a bad rap for having bad food right over there, but they have a lot of good food. They have a lot of good
Yeah,
food over
for
there.
sure. I love it, man. Like,
But
I drove all around Ireland, went to Scotland and into England. The same trip I'm talking about. Like, I mean, Ireland especially it was just phenomenal. There's just something like in Killarney, like walking around the mountains in Killarney and going to Galway, the Cliffs of Moher. Like, there's just something about Ireland and Scotland and even the UK. Castles everywhere. Just an amazing country and place to visit for sure. Food might be a little, questionable here and there, but they definitely
the
have
beer is good.
like the beer. Oh my god, like a Guinness in Ireland is not like a Guinness here. It's like a milkshake.
Yeah. I don't actually, it's funny I bring that up. I don't even drink beer. I'm more of a cider guy, like the hard ciders. And London, the UK specifically, has really nailed that. I don't know how, I don't know what they do that's different than over here, but I was looking for ways to import some, but it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars because it was just so much better over there than it is over here.
Yeah, I actually don't drink anymore either. But like when I was over there, it was like everywhere I went, if there was a Guinness on tap, I'm like 2 in the afternoon, I don't care. Like, yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
But that's a great segue somehow into some of the last topics I want to get into here, and I want to talk about like kind of what are you seeing on your end of in the terms of how the UK and Scotland and Ireland are kind of growing in tourist numbers. I'm making that up. I'm sure they've always been popular. What are you seeing? What marketplaces are people moving to, and kind of like what marketplaces are maybe even some people leaving? And how do you see that changing in 2025 and beyond?
Oh, that's a good question. So BrandExpand is, as of today, strictly in the US. We get a lot of questions about launching in the UK because we actually work with a lot of sellers in Israel or China or the UK. It is in the plans in the future. We just want to really nail the US first. So I don't have a lot of data around overseas and what marketplaces are best overseas. But I will say that we're getting the request to launch in the UK more and more. Canada, Mexico. I know you had a podcast with a gentleman that in Mexico that helps product launches. So I think that's just another way to diversify. Get into these different countries, especially Canada. It's super easy, I think, nowadays to sell in Canada or even Mexico. Reach out to somebody who specializes in that and get on these other marketplaces. Obviously in the UK, the VAT, value added tax is something to consider. I know when I was selling, we tried to move products over there, but because of the profit margins being smaller and the VAT, it was just not worth it. You also have to do different things with your labels if you're selling health supplements, stuff like that. But similar to other marketplaces emerging, definitely global. These different marketplaces are becoming more popular for sure.
Yeah. And even just like in the US, like where are we seeing did you see a crazy shift to any one particular um I guess I shouldn't call marketplaces, any one particular like website this year that maybe surprised you, or what are your predictions? And I love to ask a future question, so I'll say that one for next. But what did you see in 2024 of like your own personal, either your own personal clients and partners, people that you help launch? Like, where was like the biggest marketplace? I guess probably the answer is TikTok. So what is the second biggest marketplace that you kind of saw a nice expansion in during this year?
Yeah, TikTok would be the main one. And there's a lot, like sellers have done really niche launches. Like we've done one on Macy's that was
Usually-
I don't want to say specifics, but more of the gift niche. So there's gift products that sell really well on Macy's, for example. So we've done Sam's Club, Chewy, like I said. So there's a lot of smaller marketplaces that, again, if you have the right product, it really makes sense. I wouldn't say there wasn't anyone in particular that emerged like TikTok, but Walmart and Target are continuing to be second and third from Amazon. But we are seeing the presence of we'll see launches come up here and there on these kind of random marketplaces like Macy's or Sam's Club or GNC or Chewy or whatever. We're seeing that more often because we do full omni-channel. We have the top 5 marketplaces I mentioned, and then we have what's called the other feature, where instead of importing the product, you can type the product in on any marketplace and then do a similar launch. And the effectiveness of our software translates to other marketplaces. So we'll see little one, different marketplaces pop up here and there. But yeah, Walmart, Target are still the dominant ones, TikTok being the front runner, and then a few niche marketplaces that we've seen.
It's interesting that we like I said, what's that phrase? Like the shiny object gets all the attention, but there's potential elsewhere. So of course, everyone wants to be
There
on
is.
Amazon, everyone wants to be on Walmart, but people, I feel like, even me personally, I feel like I don't think about these niche ones,
Yeah.
so to speak, as much as I have obviously today, and you can consider them as viable options for you as a seller. So
And what's interesting is there's certain products that you wouldn't even want to sell on Amazon. Like my wife, for example, sells very handmade Colombian purses. They're beautiful, like literally artisan hand stitched. It's not a volume game. Like having a whole container of these purses, maybe 10 years down the road. But right now, because there's a lot of effort that goes into it. They're very they're more expensive products because of all of the effort that goes into making them. She's on Etsy. She sells on, Instagram, and TikTok. But getting on Amazon, it's not a high volume type of product. So, it does go the other way too. If you have products that maybe don't make sense on Amazon because it's not a high velocity type of maybe consumable or something that is really, you can kind of spin the flywheel and scale. Certain products aren't conducive to that. So again, it's a hard question. Like what's the best marketplace? Really depends on the product you're selling. And there's so many ways to win. It's not just Amazon. Amazon's still the dominant front runner. There's still sellers. Like, by no means are we saying we don't do Amazon. Amazon is the dominant marketplace that we help drive traffic to. But there's so many opportunities out there. I even see a gentleman named Talor who helps get in brick and mortar stores, and he's still pushing for that, very much pushing for brick and mortar. And so, even getting to physical stores is still very much an opportunity. So
Yeah. I'm with you. Like I said, I don't. Amazon, like we said this a couple times now, and I think this is a good point to emphasize at the end here, is that you don't only want to just be on Amazon. Maybe that's the play for, or I mean, it depends on your margins, maybe, but in this day and age, in 2024 and 2025, it's almost a requirement. It's a high necessary situation that you should want to expand when the time is right, when you have the margin, when you have the capital, when you have the resources. You should want to be on these other marketplaces because it's not just Amazon anymore, like it was maybe back in the day. But now there's other players that can also make you some money and also make you some profit. So
that's it. Yep, 100%.
The last question I want to leave you with that I love asking to all of my guests is what is next? So for BrandExpand, I talked a little bit about this already, but what is next for just in general omni-channel expansion and for you guys at BrandExpand? What's coming up in 2025 that you can share with us?
Yeah, we got a lot of exciting features in the pipeline. Really, BrandExpand, we want to lean into the name. When I hear BrandExpand, I'm like, that's it. It's one of those names that just clicked because it emphasizes what we do perfectly, right? We help get, of course, boost sales on Amazon. It's a sales acceleration software is what we say. But also omni-channel, accelerate sales, expand your brand. We're really trying to find every way to drive external traffic to your listing on these marketplaces. So you'll start to see more launches that we create that pull in traffic in different ways, right? So like right now, we pull in traffic from our own network. That's the most beneficial because the vertical integration allows us to pass savings along to our customers. But we'll be doing things such as influencer type launches where we have our buyer network share the product. Certain buyers that have more of a following will be able to see products that are doing influencer launch and they'll share those. So there'll be maybe a UGC component sharing products to their friends and family, their followers. We've also discussed integrating with Google ads so that you can create Google ads right from our platform, bring in traffic from Google ads. So if you can imagine, just sucking in traffic from all these different areas to your listing and really creating a very explosive product launch and sustained traffic and sales for, indefinitely using our software. That's really the plan moving forward. And then of course, expanding to other marketplaces and countries once we really nail the US.
Right. Love it. Well, I'll have to have you back on when we launch when you guys launch some of these features to talk about it and really get more into the weeds about it. So very cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, man. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah. We're getting to the point where we've launched software a couple of years ago and we're really hitting our stride now. And so,
yes,
it's kind of snowballing. And so we can do more with less, especially with AI, which we didn't get into. There's obviously a whole discussion on that, but we're able to invest more, do more with less with AI, invest more into our tech, and a lot of exciting things coming here in the near future. So
love it. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to me about this. Like I said, I learned a lot, and that's always, for me, that's the mark of a good episode is when I can say that I've learned something.
Sure.
So I appreciate you, Seth. Thanks for joining me today. And seriously, thanks for being a guest. To learn more about Seth and Expand Brand, I will have his LinkedIn profile and Expand Brand's homepage down below in the description. If you like this episode and you like learning about different Amazon and e-commerce topics with me, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our different episodes and all our different guests. So Seth, again, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.